The story opens with an introduction to the spirit of healing, a legendary entity revered for its ability to resonate with all living beings and create miracles. This mystical being is often described as possessing ethereal beauty and immense power, which has led humans to worship it as a goddess. In a remote icy cavern filled with treasures, a being resembling a dragon reflects upon these tales. Given the spirit of healing's awe-inspiring reputation, the dragon wonders if perhaps this legendary figure might be able to heal his cherished creature, Keturus. Resolute in his hope, the dragon performs a summoning ritual, drawing a glowing magic circle in the air and chanting ancient incantations, all while promising to reward the spirit handsomely for its aid. To the dragon's astonishment, instead of the goddess-like figure he anticipated, a black-haired man materializes within the glowing circle. The man appears disoriented, as if he had just been sleeping in his modest room, now suddenly thrust into this surreal encounter. Both the dragon and the man are equally shocked by the unexpected turn of events. The dragon, in particular, had expected an overwhelmingly radiant being of beauty, yet standing before him is a rather ordinary human. However, the dragon quickly suppresses his disappointment, reasoning that appearances matter little compared to the potential power the man might possess. Without wasting time, the dragon bluntly asks the man to lend him his powers. The man, still groggy and confused, wonders if he has died and is now in some kind of afterlife. At this moment, the narrative introduces him properly. Kim Oh-jin, a 32-year-old veterinarian. Kim had previously completed 2 years of pre-veterinary studies, followed by 4 rigorous years in veterinary medicine. Even as a student, he had been scolded by professors for dozing off in lectures, a habit that persisted through his academic career. Eventually, Kim managed to graduate, acquire his license, and work 3 grueling years as a salaried veterinarian. Unfortunately, his experience in the field was far from idyllic. Most clients treated veterinarians poorly, attempting to abandon their pets under the pretense of being unable to afford their care. Eventually, Kim saved enough to open his own veterinary clinic, hoping for a fresh start, but customers remained scarce, and the mounting debt slowly suffocated him. One night, after another long day of frustration, Kim cursed his misfortunes aloud before bed. Overwhelmed by hopelessness, burdened with insurmountable loans, and trapped in a life he despised, he even contemplated ending it all. At that exact moment, his fate took an extraordinary twist. He was suddenly summoned to another world. As Kim awakens in the unfamiliar cavern, he is disoriented and bewildered. He briefly wonders if he might have suffered a heart attack in his sleep. After all, such a peaceful death would have been preferable to his miserable existence. But as he surveys his surroundings, the oppressive cold, piles of gold and jewels, grotesque beasts, an ominous summoning circle all give him the impression that he has been cast into a personal version of hell. Worse yet, despite his new predicament, his debts still linger in his thoughts. In his confusion, Kim directs a question to the dragon, asking what is expected of him now. The dragon replies without hesitation, he needs Kim to heal his pet. Kim scoffs internally, convinced now more than ever that he must be in hell, forced to treat animals even after death. He braces himself, expecting the pet to be some horrific, hellish creature. The dragon, however, gently assures Kim that the creature is quite cute. As the dragon gestures forward, dust begins swirling ominously around Kim, heightening the surreal atmosphere. Finally, the dragon presents his pet, Keturus. Instantly, Kim is able to see detailed stats floating in the air before him, listing the creature's age as unknown and describing its introverted personality. Upon examining Keturus, Kim is alarmed. The bat appears severely malnourished and frail. His professional instincts kick in immediately, prompting him to ask routine diagnostic questions. What is the pet's name? How long the dragon has owned it? And when the symptoms first appeared? The dragon replies that he acquired Keturus only a week ago after attending a dragon's gathering where having a bat as a companion animal had become the latest trend. The dragon, embarrassed, admits that he caught the bat outside his cave, succumbing to peer pressure to keep up with the trend. This revelation infuriates Kim. Such impulsive, trend-chasing pet owners are second on his list of most detested clients. Nevertheless, Kim feels somewhat relieved that at least the dragon hasn't abandoned the poor bat yet. Pushing his frustration aside, Kim asks the dragon if the bat has been eating properly. The dragon proudly declares that he has been providing Keturus with fresh animal blood daily, assuming it to be a delicacy. However, the bat has refused to eat any of it. The dragon assumes his pet is simply picky, much like himself. This assumption enrages Kim even further. Uninformed owners who fail to research their pets rank fifth on his list of worst clients. Kim, struggling to contain his anger, informs the dragon that Catullus is a fruit bat, creatures that cannot, under any circumstance, consume blood. The dragon, flustered, defends himself by saying that his fellow dragons advised feeding bats blood. Kim is pushed to the brink of frustration and corrects him harshly, explaining that vampire bats and fruit bats are entirely different species. Catullus, a fruit bat, requires fruits, not blood. The dragon's ignorance has left the poor creature starving for an entire week. Embarrassed, the dragon finally admits that this is his first experience raising a bat and concedes that he made a grave error. Kim reprimands him further, stressing that taking responsibility is crucial when caring for any living being, no matter how small. He also points out the dangerously low temperature of the cave, which is pushing Catullus toward hibernation. The dragon, sheepish, reveals that the freezing environment is due to his nature as an ice dragon. Kim, exasperated, shouts that if the dragon cannot meet even the basic needs of his pet, he should not keep one at all. Overwhelmed by Kim's scolding and filled with regret, the dragon finally understands the gravity of his negligence. He carefully cradles Catullus in his massive claws, apologizing to the bat for his selfish mistakes and vowing to correct them. The dragon resolves to gather fresh fruit immediately and even contemplates returning Catullus to his natural habitat, recognizing that the bat's happiness and well-being far outweigh his own desires for companionship. For the first time, the dragon acknowledges that true responsibility means putting the needs of the creature before his own pride. Witnessing the dragon sincerely acknowledging his mistakes and expressing genuine remorse softens Kim's perception of the creature. His previously rigid view of the dragon begins to shift as he realizes the dragon is not just an arrogant beast but a guardian capable of reflection and growth. In a surprisingly humble tone, the dragon thanks Kim for enlightening him and helping him recognize his irresponsible behavior. Following this, the dragon, honoring the tradition of rewarding those who assist him, asks Kim what he desires in return for his help. Without missing a beat, Kim blurts out an absurd yet sincere wish to be reincarnated as a rich Arab prince in his next life, or at the very least, as the archetypal wealthy young villain master from the novels and dramas he used to read. His request baffles the dragon, who struggles to comprehend Kim's eccentric fantasies. The dragon, unfamiliar with human cultural references or the nuances of reincarnation tropes, decides to take matters into his own hands. With a dignified air, he bestows upon Kim a magical artifact, a necklace imbued with a fragment of his divine dragon power. Presenting the glowing necklace, the dragon informs Kim that it holds the potential to create anything he desires. However, he warns Kim that the necklace cannot be used to fulfill wicked or malicious intentions. Despite the stern warning, the dragon expresses unwavering faith in Kim, believing that he will not abuse such power. Before Kim can ask any further questions, the ground beneath him begins to glow brightly. The dragon is initiating the ritual to return him to the human world. As the light envelopes him, Kim mutters in confusion, wondering if he truly is in some kind of fantastical afterlife that only exists in manga or manhwa. Suddenly, in a moment of desperation, he remembers his wish and yells out that he wants to go back to the early days of Bitcoin to become a crypto millionaire. However, his pleas vanish into the glowing light as both he and the dragon disappear from the cave. The dragon, now left in the cave, smiles warmly as he cradles Catullus, vowing to feed him fresh fruit from now on. Meanwhile, Kim finds himself materializing in the middle of a bustling street illuminated by a radiant light. As the brilliance fades, a wave of regret washes over him. He realizes that he missed the golden opportunity of a lifetime. He could have asked the dragon to make him the top real estate tycoon or grant him unimaginable wealth. Instead, he is left pondering how exactly he is supposed to make money using a dragon's magical necklace, especially since the dragon had neglected to explain how the artifact works. In a moment of self-pity, Kim concludes that he has been duped, a victim of the world's oldest scam, only this time by a dragon. His thoughts are interrupted when a passerby scolds him for standing in the middle of the alleyway, urging him to move aside. Kim obliges and stumbles into the crowded main street, where vendors and locals bustle about. Another stranger accidentally bumps into him, jarring him from his thoughts. Kim begins to question whether he is still on Earth, or if his surroundings are merely a sophisticated illusion conjured by the dragon. His logical mind leans toward the former, still clinging to the dragon's vague assurances. A cheerful food vendor greets Kim, calling him handsome and offering him a taste of her fruit. Intrigued and seeking answers, Kim strikes up a conversation, inquiring about his location. The vendor, assuming Kim to be a lost traveler, explains that he is in the town of Belmore, situated south of the Doyle barony. The area, she tells him, may lack notable tourist attractions, but it serves as a convenient stopover for travelers, with numerous lodgings and shops. Hearing this, the weight of reality crashes down on Kim. He truly has been transported to another world. Before he can process the situation fully, chaos erupts in the street. A giant rabbit suddenly charges through the crowd, devouring crates of carrots with alarming ferocity. As a rabbit's stats appear before Kim's eyes, he notes that it exhibits heightened aggression when stressed. Panic spreads among the townspeople as they flee from the rampaging creature. Kim, bewildered, asks the vendor if monstrous creatures casually roam the streets here. The woman hurriedly explains that the giant rabbit is, in fact, the pet of Lord Belmore. She urges Kim to run before the situation worsens. As Kim attempts to make sense of the madness, the rabbit spots a young girl sobbing alone in the street and lunges toward her. Instinctively, Kim sprints forward, pulling the girl to safety just as the rabbit's massive jaws snap shut where she had been moments before. Kim curses his impulsive heroism, convinced that rescuing the girl has only placed him in greater danger. But before he can berate himself further, the rabbit charges again. Desperate, Kim thinks wildly about leashing the beast, and to his astonishment, the necklace reacts. A brilliant light shoots forth, manifesting a glowing leash that binds the rabbit. Kim finds himself gripping the leash tightly, bewildered at the power surging through him. The onlookers, hiding behind stalls and alleys, gasp in awe, whispering that Kim must be a magician. The fruit vendor and her younger sister watch in amazement, the little girl excitedly asking if Kim is truly a magician. The vendor, equally stunned, admits she had initially assumed Kim was just another lost traveler. At that moment, Lord Belmore arrives, frantic to locate his runaway pet. Upon seeing Elizabeth, his beloved rabbit, tied up and sobbing, he rushes toward Kim in outrage, demanding to know how he could treat his precious child in such a manner. Kim calmly explains that he had no choice, as the rabbit had endangered lives. The Lord, blinded by paternal affection, insists his pet could never harm anyone and commands Kim to release her immediately. Infuriated by such blind arrogance, Kim fires back, challenging the Lord to put his own head inside the rabbit's mouth if he's so confident. He further mocks the Lord, suggesting he stick his foot inside if he fears losing his head. Kim warns him that Elizabeth's bite strength is powerful enough to crush bones with ease. His fierce words leave the Lord trembling, finally silenced by the harsh reality Kim forced him to confront. The fruit vendor and her sister watch the scene unfold with undisguised satisfaction, clearly enjoying the sight of the pompous Lord being chastised. Meanwhile, Kim's attention shifted toward the visible wounds on the giant rabbit. Doing his best to restrain his irritation, Kim calmly explained to the Lord that long-eared domestic rabbits are not meant for outdoor walks, especially not in crowded or unfamiliar places. He elaborated that rabbits are naturally territorial animals and easily become stressed when exposed to environments outside their comfort zones. Switching into professional mode, Kim asked the Lord if the rabbit had ever shown signs of self-harm or aggressive behavior. As expected, the Lord sheepishly admitted that the rabbit often pulled out its own fur. Kim loosened the leash, explaining that such behavior is a common stress response in rabbits. Ignoring these signs, he warned, could lead to serious health complications and even significantly shorten the animal's lifespan. The Lord, now visibly distressed, anxiously inquired how he could correct the situation. Kim assured him that most of the issues could be managed at home with proper care and knowledge. He stressed that rabbits are delicate creatures requiring more than affection. They demand attentive, informed care. Simply showering them with love was not enough. Understanding their needs was critical to their well-being. Impressed by Kim's knowledge, the Lord presumed that Kim must be a rabbit enthusiast. However, Kim swiftly denied any particular fondness for rabbits, clarifying that his concern stemmed from his professional responsibility rather than personal affection. Overcome with emotion, the Lord confessed that when he told others he kept rabbits, they often mocked him, claiming only young ladies kept such pets. With tearful eyes sparkling with newfound admiration, the Lord asked if Kim worked in the animal profession. Kim confirmed that he was indeed a veterinarian. Immediately, the Lord enthusiastically clapped his hands, commanding his servant to bring forth a token of gratitude. The servant soon appeared, carrying a hefty bag of gold coins, which the Lord presented to Kim in appreciation for his help. The Lord also requested that Kim periodically check on his pet's health, acknowledging how valuable his expertise was. After the rabbit was retrieved by the servants, and the Lord departed, the townspeople emerged from hiding. They praised Kim for standing up to the Lord and finally putting an end to the chaos caused by his unruly pet. The fruit vendor thanked Kim personally, promising him a special discount at her stall. When Kim admitted that he had no local currency, she reminded him that the Lord had just rewarded him generously. Perplexed, Kim opened the bag and retrieved a shiny gold coin, examining it curiously before instinctively biting it. Amused, the fruit vendor told him that it was indeed genuine gold, a currency recognized universally for its value. She scolded him playfully, comparing his behavior to that of a newborn baby. Despite the teasing, Kim had only one thought swirling in his mind. He wanted to bring the gold back to his own world. Realizing the fortune he now held, his eyes gleamed with excitement. Without hesitation, he began inquiring about property prices in the town, resolving to open a second branch of his animal hospital there, hoping to use the profits to finally repay his crushing debts. In a dimly lit room illuminated only by flickering candles, Kim sat at the head of a table, gazing at the individuals who had gathered before him. With a theatrical tone, he thanked them all for attending and announced that he would select one among them today. Dramatically, he declared the start of what he called the game of life and death. Of course, it was nothing that sinister. This was merely the job interview for staff positions at his newly opened pet clinic. Word of Kim's decision to settle permanently in the Lord's town spread quickly. Thanks to the Lord's generous support, Kim's plan to open a second branch of his clinic proceeded smoothly. The Lord provided him with a spacious shop, and although it was cluttered with an excessive amount of rabbit supplies, clearly left over from the Lord's obsession with his pet, Kim wasn't one to complain, especially when it came free of charge. After all, free was free. Now that he had secured the premises, Kim's next task was to kickstart his business. However, he faced two immediate challenges. He lacked sufficient knowledge about the town, and perhaps more importantly, he needed to track down the dragon who had promised to send him back to his original world but instead dumped him here without explanation. To address both issues, Kim decided to hire a local veterinary technician who could assist him both in managing the clinic and gathering information about the place. He quickly prepared a job poster, which he distributed throughout the town. The interview day arrived, and 4 candidates turned up. Seated confidently in his chair, Kim instructed them to begin introducing themselves, starting from the right. The first candidate, a tall and muscular young man, introduced himself as Thomas, the second son among 3 brothers and 2 sisters. He proudly spoke of being raised by a strict father and a gentle mother, claiming to have developed both a righteous character and a strong physique. Kim listened while jotting down notes but couldn't hide his disappointment. This man had no personality whatsoever. In Kim's book, that was an instant red flag. He deducted points immediately. The second candidate introduced himself as Philip. He spoke with confidence, mentioning that his family had been in the animal business for generations. Intrigued, Kim asked what kind of business, only to be startled when Philip revealed that his family ran a butcher shop. Philip even pulled out a knife, proudly claiming that he'd been handling animals since childhood and boasting that few could wield a blade as skillfully as him. Kim rejected him on the spot, mentally noting that he needed to screen applicants more carefully in this strange new world filled with eccentrics. Next was candidate number 3, who had a sly grin plastered on his face. Kim eyed him warily. Still, he held back from making snap judgments. Trying to stay professional, Kim asked if he was nervous and why he wanted the job. To Kim's horror, the man suddenly erupted in a loud declaration that he had been searching desperately for someone like him, crawling closer and closer with a creepy smile. Kim, now fully convinced that people should, in fact, be judged by their appearances, desperately tried to distance himself from the lunatic. Amid the chaos, the 4th candidate, a girl who had been silently observing the disaster, asked calmly when it would be her turn. Kim, trying to keep the weirdo at bay, asked if this was really the right time for that question. She offered casually to help him, to which Kim nodded frantically. Without hesitation, she delivered a clean, powerful punch, knocking the lunatic out cold. She then introduced herself as Selena, a roaming animal expert with skills in basic treatment. Still processing her impressive combat skills, Kim listened as Selena calmly explained her credentials. Recognizing that she was the only competent candidate among the bunch, and perhaps his only hope, Kim hired her on the spot. They shook hands, And just like that, his clinic finally had its first technician. However, the very next day, Kim sat alone in the clinic, seething with frustration. Selena had not shown up for her first day of work. Irritated, he contemplated placing another job poster when suddenly someone knocked on the clinic door. Assuming it was Selena, Kim opened the door with a sarcastic remark about her leisurely arrival after lunch. To his surprise, it wasn't Selena but a customer. The startled customer, confused by Kim's comment, asked if he was supposed to have had lunch before visiting. Realizing the misunderstanding, Kim quickly shifted gears and welcomed the man warmly, offering him a seat. For the first time since opening the second branch, Kim had an actual customer, a crucial step forward in his plan to repay his debts. Kim eagerly offered the man water or tea. The customer, a light blue-haired gentleman, requested tea without hesitation. Kim happily prepared it, feeling a surge of hope that his business might finally succeed this time. He reminded himself that during his time running his first clinic, he had made several mistakes, including berating clients over trivial issues. He recalled how during one incident, a client refused to brush their dog's teeth daily as prescribed, leading to an argument that ended in Kim cursing the client into reluctant compliance. That episode had spiraled into a flood of negative reviews and ultimately contributed to his debt crisis. This time, Kim vowed to handle customers with patience and professionalism. Returning with the tea, Kim sat down and asked the man about his pet. The customer pointed toward his pocket, from which a small lizard peeked out. He introduced it as Podjack. Kim breathed a sigh of relief after the traumatic rabbit incident. Seeing a normal pet was oddly comforting. However, noticing that the lizard wasn't in a cage, Kim, suppressing his initial urge to scold, asked politely why the pet was loose. The man casually replied that it looked cuter that way. That response irritated Kim even more, but his loan-induced survival instincts kept him from lashing out. Despite his efforts, he struggled to suppress his frustration and had to fight the urge to flip the table in exasperation. The light blue-haired man blinked in confusion, staring at Kim, who was visibly struggling to maintain his composure. Kim, forcing a calm demeanor, casually explained that the desk was just a little broken, brushing off his near outburst. Determined not to let his inner frustration surface, he straightened up and turned his attention back to the man, asking why he had brought his pet in. Was it sick? The man replied that his pet wasn't exactly sick, but it was unusually weak and extremely sensitive to cold. Kim nodded knowingly, explaining that such traits were common among lizards due to their cold-blooded nature. The man continued, somewhat cluelessly, mentioning that whenever he grabbed the pet's tail, it would fall off. This caused Kim to grit his teeth in irritation. Restraining his temper, he informed the man not to do that, though he clarified that tail detachment was indeed a normal defensive behavior in many lizard species. Without the slightest hesitation, the man then cheerfully pushed his pet toward Kim, requesting him to make it healthier. The sight triggered an odd sense of déjà vu in Kim, reminding him of his encounter with the dragon who had made the same demand. Kim sighed inwardly, realizing once again that the real issue wasn't the animal, it was always the clueless owners. Distrusting the owner's competence, Kim decided it would be best to perform a thorough checkup himself. The man handed over the lizard, and the moment Kim held it, he sensed something was wrong. After a quick examination, Kim informed him that the pet was suffering from dysectasis, a condition where shedding is incomplete or abnormal. Predictably, the man was utterly unfamiliar with the concept of shedding, his ignorance painfully obvious. Meanwhile, noticing Kim inspecting the lizard's arms, the man warned him to be careful, stating that the creature became aggressive when touched. As if to prove the point, the lizard, now clearly more than just a lizard, began generating fire in its mouth and launched a flame directly at Kim. Reacting swiftly, Selena appeared from nowhere and hurled Kim out of harm's way, grumbling that she couldn't afford to lose her boss on her first day. Kim crashed into the wall. Groaning in pain, he muttered bitterly that taking the direct hit from the fire might have been less painful than crashing into the wall. It finally dawned on Kim that, once again, the animals in this world were far from ordinary. Their first patient was, in fact, a salamander, not a regular lizard. Realizing that the creature couldn't be handled barehanded, Kim cursed his luck and wondered aloud if they had a fireproof suit available. Selena, seizing control of the situation, questioned the man about how he came to possess the salamander. The man innocently revealed that he had found it while hiking in the mountains and, captivated by its appearance, decided to keep it as a pet. With a cheeky grin, he even asked Selena if she was jealous. She flatly denied it and sternly explained that salamanders were wild creatures and that capturing them was illegal due to their dwindling numbers caused by overhunting. Her words sent the man into a state of panic. Realizing the implications, he wailed that he couldn't bear to part with his beloved pet. Selena, attempting to calm him, clarified that while it was illegal to keep a salamander, if a clinic held it temporarily for medical treatment, the authorities would likely overlook it, provided it was released afterward. Ignoring her reassurances, the man suddenly bolted, tears streaming down his face, shouting that he couldn't say goodbye to his pet. Kim, who had been preparing the treatment tools, looked up just in time to see the man fleeing. Shaking his head in disbelief, he grumbled, "What is wrong with that guy?" Selena, watching casually, shrugged and joked that maybe the client had decided to go home. Kim snapped at her, pointing out they hadn't even started the treatment yet. Fixing her with a cold glare, he demanded to know why she just stood there watching him escape. With a look of panic, Selena stammered out a rushed, "Yes, sir.